welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to interview my sister and an award-winning songwriter, Mirja Klippel. She's recently sent me a link to her new album that is going to be published in April. And I want to ask her some questions about the process of creating it during the pandemic. And she was filming it in Finland, while she's living in Copenhagen. And there must have been a lot of trouble and interesting ways of dealing with the challenges.
Fear is a dear friend. No one else can get that close to me. Fear is a dear friend. No one else can get that close to me.
Okay, welcome, Mirja, to the show.
Thank you, Aina.
I want to interview you today about your new album and also about self-care for musicians and how you're looking after your well-being and creativity during normal times and maybe also during the pandemic, which is, I have heard, is very difficult for musicians. So I would be interested in hearing about that as well, how you have been managing. You told me you were just coming from the trash bin at your practice place and looking for mirrors. I'm curious to hear more about that.
Yeah, that's true. I have a photo shoot tomorrow with my trusted photographer, Kim Wendt, and we have this idea of putting some mural pieces together and taking a photo through those pieces, a portrait of me. For my next single cover, I will release 2 singles, and the first one is out already, and the second one is coming in a bit. And then the album itself, the whole later. So we need little by little.
Which piece from the album are you going to publish next?
It's a track called Pearls. It's a little bit more upbeat and maybe a little more positive song than the first one.
Oh, yes. I was very surprised how bright and optimistic it sounded, because the first video that you published was very dark in many ways, and it looked very cold also. You were singing under the eyes.
It's very cold, but I think maybe as Finnish people, we know how it feels to be close contact with ice or snow, so we know it's cold. but for a Danish person, it's like that's just a prop. That's not real.
Yes, and I was wondering actually, because there were some image with that looked like the person was frozen, and then there was some steam coming out. Was that actually like just frost, or did you use some effects?
That is potato flour. The big sister is blowing potato flour from her hand from one side, and her boyfriend is doing it from the other side, and then it's meeting in the middle.
Okay, that looked really cold.
Tell Hollywood about it, they can lend it.
This winter we have lots and lots and lots of snow, and it has been really cold. And I've been listening to this music where you are sitting in the snow in the middle of the forest, and I feel frozen inside.
I hope the next single will melt you.
Okay. You explained that you were going back to some notes that you made as a child or as a teenager when you were creating this album. How did you work on this? Did you use the actual words that you were writing when you were young, or did you just use it as an inspiration for the songs?
There's going to be 3 Finnish songs Two of them are my original poems from when I was between 12 and maybe 20. I think I didn't even have to look into my diaries because I knew them by heart, and it was something that I had been keeping with me somehow. And then just putting music on it felt natural because it was already in my head somehow. On those occasions, it went very naturally. But with the other songs, I think I used these atmospheres and this kind of almost animistic world that was in my poems when I was a child, where all the nature has a soul and is alive around me, like walking in the forest or being by the lake. And I remember that feeling from my early poems. So I think that is present in the other songs.
Yes.
That I'm not finished.
Yes, I could feel that too. And yeah, I was wondering, have you been sitting in the forest and writing them? But you are living in Copenhagen, so it was funny how strongly it came across, and this kind of sense of being in the nature and being in the forest and being part of it, actually.
Yeah, it's like a part of my inner world, and it was even more important to me back then.
So now you are living in well, quite a big town in Copenhagen. How has that affected your music?
Good question. I don't really know. It's hard to say because change happens so slow, and your inner landscapes, they change slowly, even if your outer landscapes change quicker. So here I live very close to nature, luckily. And there is a very big park and a nature area right next to my door, which is lovely. And the sea is close, which I didn't have when I grew up. And that's also lovely. So in a way, I miss this kind of nature that as I experienced it as a child, where it was just wild and larger than you and like uncontainable and yeah, larger than life. And now I feel that maybe that nature, well, this is maybe a little bit cynical, but maybe that nature doesn't even exist. Maybe it was only in my head, because the world is not is not full of that kind of wild nature anymore. But in my child's mind, it was, and I could see it around me in my childhood home. So, so here in Copenhagen, the nature is always something that people have allowed to survive, or it's something that people have built.
Yes.
So it's a change, but I don't know how it affects me yet. Maybe it's some kind of attempt to share this imagery that I had growing up, and maybe I do feel that it's rare. It's rare to grow up with those pictures.
Do you have some kind of purpose when you are writing music or performing music?
Well, my purpose is to share the images that are in my head in as clear pictures as possible. And I think that's what poetry is about, that you describe a kind of inner picture, emotional landscape. You try to describe it in as precise words as possible. And then with the music, it's just another way to frame that landscape, to make it even more alive. And I feel the video does it the same, that you get one more perspective to it, so it gets even more concrete, this visualization of the vision you had in your head. And that's what I live for, to create those images, to share them. I think for me it's most important to share them live, so I really enjoy playing live to people.
Yes. How has it been this year? I remember you did a tour in Danish schools with teenagers, for example.
Yeah, that's true, and that was really nice, and really rare possibility in this time. But the schools in Denmark were open last autumn for some months. Now they are closed again, most of them. And we played in 13 schools during 10 days, which was really intense. I learned a lot from that experience.
In that kind of concerts, the audience is very close to you, and you probably get also very direct feedback.
You notice right away when you don't have the attention of the audience, because they get restless right away. I think the biggest concern was to not try to reach everyone, but rather I will let them approach me, so I open up rather than I try to go to them and reach them.
So that has actually a profound effect on your environment when you are opening up your images. It does somehow change how people approach you.
Well, if you don't allow people to see what is inside, then they won't come and look at you, because it's hard to look at someone who doesn't want to be looked at. I think it's quite rare that people really invite you to look at them while they are doing something very personal to them, and that is captivating.
Yes. I'm very interested in this relationship between musician and audience. And I wonder if you have any idea of what is your audience, the teenagers who are listening to you and being invited in a little bit in your life. What is happening in them?
I don't know what is happening in them. I don't feel I'm authorized to say that. What happens in me is that I feel that I'm communicating with them on some level that I cannot communicate with words.
Yeah.
And that's what really matters when you perform, that you communicate with someone. And I think that's why I often feel like when I have a new song, that it's not ready before I have performed it to someone. And suddenly when I perform it to someone, I see it from their perspective, and that gives me a totally new look into the whole song. And maybe I realize, oh, it is ready, because it does somehow. And I don't know what it is that it awakens in others, but I feel that it somehow communicates something. And then I'm like, okay, then it means this is ready. And it just clicks. And if it doesn't, then it's not ready. Then I have to work on it.
I'm wondering about how do you experience this Zoom environment? Because you are also teaching online. And maybe even performing online, I don't know.
I'm teaching twice a week in a music school. I teach vocals. And that's actually been surprisingly nice experience. The funny thing is, I have never met my students in real life because I was hired during this lockdown, so I never got to see them, and I probably won't. My students, they are working online every day. Then after that, they come to me. So we do lots of physical things. We do some stretching, start, and we do some somatic exercises and breathing exercises and all these things. And I feel my students are a little bit more self-sufficient when they are not meeting me live.
Yes.
So they have to take care of themselves. And also they I can get to see their practice space. I see where they spend their days, and I see how they live, and that's very intimate in a way.
Mhm.
So I feel connected to them, even though I haven't met them in real life. And we talk about all kinds of things. So I feel that they have a lot on their hearts, and they want to share how it is to live in this weird time with someone. So a lot of my job is to listen also.
Yes, and they are very young, your students. Are they teenagers also?
Yeah, the youngest one is 11 and the oldest is 21. So they are quite in the spectrum.
Wow. Are they also writing music like you?
Yeah, there's 4 or 5 people who are writing songs, and we talk about songwriting and ideas for creativity, how to keep creativity going, and stuff like that.
All right.
I get very inspired by them.
Yes, you also get inspired from your students.
I have lots of, I have lots of good advice, but I don't do it myself. So when I have to tell about it to someone, then I actually get like, wow, I should also do this sometimes.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah, I know about that. Sometimes my students tell me that this was really good advice that you gave to me. And
Thank you
I
for
have
giving it to me now.
so okay, I could try that as well.
And also, we always start with the warming up the voice and doing a vocal exercises. So that's something I neglect in my daily life when I'm not teaching. So it's really great.
Yes. I have a question from Sophia, who was singing on your album.
Oh, yeah.
So I asked her if she has something that I could ask you, and her question was, what time of the day is the best time to write songs?
That's very individual. But for me, it's in the evening. But it has to be in the evening when I'm not too tired yet, because then when I get too tired, then I want to go and sleep because I'm getting old. So sometimes I could write all night, but I don't want to do that anymore because it messes up with all my other rhythms. So I feel most creative in the evening when it's dark, maybe around 8 o'clock.
Okay. So you have become more sensible when you get older.
Oh, thank you. Have you noticed? I guess the lockdown ages you, right?
Yeah. Yes. Maybe during the lockdown, you also have to be more clear about your rhythms because there is not so much outwards engagement. So you have to be more strict with your timetables.
I think my inner day is maybe 30 hours long, so I would always just stay up a little later and a little later
Ah,
a
yes.
little later. Then I would wake up later, and at some point during the lockdown, I think I got up around 12 or 1 o'clock, and when it's winter, you don't have many sunshine hours there after that, so it just didn't work. I got more and more tired because of that. So now I'm waking up every morning at 9, and that's late for some, early for me. So, so I wake up at 9, and then I have the whole day ahead of me. And no matter when I go to bed, I mean, when I wake up, I'm always tired at 12 anyway, so I go to bed there.
Yeah. So how do you maintain your creativity? Do you have some routines during the day that you are doing regularly?
I have one routine that I do every morning, and that's every evening already when I go to bed. I set my alarm 10 minutes before 9, and then I have another alarm at 9. And then I put my notebook on my bedside table, and I wake up 10 to 9, and I write first thing in the morning for 10 minutes. And then when the clock rings again, I close my book and I go about my day. So that's the way that keeps me, kind of makes me feel like I'm keeping the muscle trained. And so when I actually get an inspiration to write something, I will be ready. And right now I have been quite busy with the album and all these practical details around it, so I haven't been writing much music. But I try to do it. I try to reserve a few hours at least every week to go to my rehearsal space and just be with my instrument, if nothing else. to play something I know, or to write something new. So I don't have such high requirements for myself right now. But in periods I write, and other periods I don't.
Yeah. Do you have some tips for us for how to look after ourselves? Some self-care ideas people can use, for example, working online.
Yeah, I have a little tip I do with my students often when they are singing a song, for example, and they are having some kind of backing track on their phone, and then they just get more and more sucked into the screen.
Yes.
And I have this tip that helps you open your horizons.
Okay.
So spread wide and move your fingers like a little bit in the periphery, and move them both so that you can just see them in the corner of your eye when you're looking forward.
Mm-hmm.
So you look at the fingers while they're looking at the screen, actually. You sense the movement while you look at the screen. And then you can move them a little further, and until you just barely sense it. Just opening your vision field. And then remember how much space there is around you. Where's the ceiling? I mean, this is not a two-dimensional space, even though it looks like it in your screen. Like, where is that the wall? How much space is there between me and the wall, and me and the ceiling?
Yes.
Kind of simple way to connect with the space you're in.
So this must be nice for a musician as well, if you are performing. Do you use this
Yes.
on stage?
Okay. I don't do it with the fingers necessarily, but I always, when I do a sound check and I'm on stage before the concert starts, I always try to open my vision field and just, if I feel that I cannot look in one place in the room, for example, and it's a weird feeling, but sometimes you feel like you cannot open up totally. And then when you just open up your vision field, you suddenly feel much more at ease. And you're not scared of the audience or scared of the room.
Yes. Do you want to play a little bit of Waltzitter before we leave?
I can give you a little sound sample.
Yeah.
This is the first bars from my next single.
That sounds familiar. Thank you very much, Mirja.
Thank you.
And take care. I hope to see you soon.
Yes, let's talk. We finish.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Fear's a dear friend. No one else can get that close to me. Fear's a dear friend.